As Toastmasters, we know giving good feedback, evaluating the speech is the most difficult thing. And as said, to evaluate an accomplished speaker is probably the most difficult thing. Today, Carl will attempt to evaluate one of the best speakers that we know of, President Obama. So here is his response to the State of Union address a couple of weeks ago. So I present Carl.
Before I start, I just want to see how many saw President Obama's speech 2 weeks ago. Oh, not bad. For those of you who didn't see it, don't worry, neither did I. Not in its entirety anyway, but I will evaluate it anyway. So let me first read the goals of his speech. The President was working on his first speech in the manual, the Constitution of the United States of America. The goal is to give the Congress information in the State of the Union and to recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient, whatever that means. So I'll just go into it. First, the positives. I thought it was a very good speech. He used good humor from time to time. There was some good information conveyed, however vague. And he looked pretty presidential. I think he probably has had some practice before. But enough with the good. There are many recommendations for improvements I can suggest. First off, the scheduling of the speech. I'm not sure if you all know, but the speech was originally planned for February 2nd. But it was later moved to accommodate the season premiere of this TV show, Lost. That's true. Now, I don't know about you, but since when does the commander-in-chief of the world's most powerful army yield to a bunch of sci-fi watching nerds? Well, when you're the president, you don't yield to anybody. And I think that's something Obama can learn from George W. Bush. Moving on, then there was the entrance to the speech. The walk from the back of the congressional session to the front. I don't know if you saw, but there was so much pageantry. There was handshakes, hugs, high fives, kisses. I mean, I thought they were announcing the starting lineup of the LA Lakers. I mean, he might as well have hired an announcer, kill the lights, cue the music, and be like, no, the starting lineup for yours, United States government. At 6'1" out of Harvard University, starting at President Barack Obama. I mean, seriously, was all that necessary? I thought all I did was to raise an expectation of the American audience to have an entertaining speech. And unless he was planning to slam dunk on the Congress, I think he's just going to disappoint. So I would suggest him to tone that down a little bit in his next speech. Another thing for him to work on is time management. His speech was 70 minutes long. Now, that's true. In my estimation, it's way over the average attention span of the Americans, which my estimation is about 5 minutes. I mean, given how much he didn't do in his first year, it shouldn't have been hard to keep it short. See, he didn't pass the healthcare bill, he didn't close Guantanamo, didn't pass any financial restrictions on the banks, didn't pass any carbon emission standards. I mean, he could have just came in and said, oh, I didn't do much this year, but I had beer with a Harvard professor and a pot of cop, and be done with it. George Washington's big State of the Union address was only 15 minutes long, and he founded the country. So if Washington can keep it short, I think Obama can do it next year. Then there's applause management. You know, as a State of the Union address, there's a lot of applauses. Lots of standing ovations. But honestly, I thought it was a little distracting. It was a little too much. All this clapping. I mean, what do they think they are? I mean, at a Toastmasters meeting? I mean, my hands were hurting just watching the poor senators out there trying to kiss the ass of the president. Well, for those that didn't physically do so during the entrance anyway. I think one way to discourage applause is to stay away from campaign rhetoric. You know, stay away from stuff like hope and jobs and yes we can. Those things get people really excited. He needs to be more negative. He needs to blame Congress for not passing bills. He needs to point fingers at Wall Street for causing the recession. He needs to point fingers at the American public. Now that might be surreal for a politician, but I think if he does all that and be more direct about it, he can be sure to quiet the crowd down for next time. And one last thing. He talked about the deficit and the debt and all of that. I think the State of the Union can help with that. We need to commercialize it, sort of like the Super Bowl. No, hear me out. Obama got a TV audience of 50 million people. That is twice as many as the TV's #1 show, American Idol. Seriously. That's a gold mine out there. You shouldn't give that speech away for free to the networks. In fact, you should charge for it. The Super Bowl draws 100 million people and gets $3 million per every 30-second commercial. Now, I think Obama will have no problem getting $1 million per commercial. Another thing you can learn from the Super Bowl is get sponsors for segments of his speech. If you watch the Super Bowl, you all noticed there was the Hyundai kickoff and the Dorito halftime report and the Intel post-game show. Well, imagine the president doing the same thing. He'd be like, now, the economic report brought to you by Goldman Sachs. Or why America needs to lead in the field of technology, brought to you by Intel. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, or if he doesn't want to do that, just go with old product endorsement. Instead of reading from a teleprompter, he could just grab an iPad and read off of that. So I thought there's some serious amount of lost revenues here he could tap into. But that said, overall, I thought it was a great speech, and I look forward for him to incorporate some of my suggestions into his speech next year.
Thank you, Carl, for the entertaining speech.